Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, and Thibaut Courtois, three of the most gifted players of their generation, are about to play what is almost certainly their last game together in a World Cup. And the question going into that quarterfinal against Spain on July 10th has nothing to do with talent. It never did. The real question is why the most talented squad Belgium ever produced never won a single thing. And the answer is one of the most fascinating psychology stories in football. This video is about that story. Because Belgium's golden generation isn't just a football footnote, it's a case study in what happens when everything looks right on paper and still falls apart in the moments that matter most. And there's one piece of this that almost nobody talks about, something that sits underneath all the pressure and the near misses and the egos, and I'll get to it at the end, because it reframes everything that came before it. These players helped Belgium reach #1 in the FIFA World Rankings for the first time in November 2015. And they stayed there for years. Belgium regained sole possession of the top spot in October 2018 and kept it for nearly 4 years. That is not a fluke. That is sustained, verified, undeniable quality. And across all of it, the World Cups, the Euros, the knockout rounds, the trophy cabinet stayed completely empty. No World Cup, no Euros, not a single major title. The closest they ever came was a third-place finish at the 2018 World Cup. So how does that happen? How does the #1 team in the world, stacked with world-class players at every single position, come away with nothing? The first weight they carried was the label itself. The moment a group of players gets called a golden generation, expectation stops working as motivation and starts working as pressure. And there's a key difference between those two things. Motivation makes you play freely. Pressure makes you play carefully. When an entire nation is certain you're destined to win, anything short of the trophy gets treated as failure. And that certainty seeps into the players long before kickoff. Instead of going out and competing, they go out trying not to let everyone down. That's a completely different mental state, and it produces completely different football. The fear of falling short quietly outweighs the joy of competing, and you can feel it in the way teams like that play in big moments. Tighter, more hesitant, just a half second slower than they need to be. Ahead of the 2022 World Cup, De Bruyne himself had responded to questions about Belgium's chances with, "No chance, we're too old." And Hazard stated they had a better chance to win 4 years ago. De Bruyne echoed those sentiments, saying, "I think our chance was 2018. We have a good team, but it is aging." That's a group of players who had already mentally written off their own window. That's what years of accumulated pressure does to even the most gifted footballers. Then there's the paradox at the heart of every super team. A collection of stars is not the same thing as a great team. Belgium had Eden Hazard, at his peak one of the top players in the world, Vincent Kompany, Kevin De Bruyne, widely regarded as one of the best midfielders of his generation, Romelu Lukaku, Thibaut Courtois, Jan Vertonghen, Axel Witsel, and more. Every single one of those players was the main man at their club. Every one of them was used to the game being built around them. And when you put that many alpha personalities in the same dressing room, something has to give. Because a team can only have one identity, one plan, one way of playing that everyone buys into completely. Psychologists have long documented that too much individual brilliance can actually harm a team when those egos compete for the same spotlight instead of dissolving into a single unit. The most gifted players don't always sacrifice for each other, and a dressing room full of leaders can really struggle to follow one plan. Belgium had the talent of champions, but never fully became a team in the way the sides that beat them did. Compounding everything was the ticking clock, and this is the part that I think gets underestimated. A golden generation rises together and ages together, which means the window to win slams shut for everybody at once. Every tournament that passed without a trophy made the next one feel more desperate. And desperation is the enemy of composure. The more a team needs it, the tighter they play, the more they try to force the moments that should come naturally. Group stage elimination at Qatar 2022 was thought to herald the end for the fading golden generation. And even then, the survivors came back for one more attempt. But by that point, they weren't just fighting their opponents. They were fighting the clock and the growing dread that time was running out. And remember that thing I mentioned at the start? The piece that reframes everything? Here it is. Underneath all of it sat the scar tissue. This group lived through a string of gut-wrenching near misses. Courtois' save from Neymar in the last minute of Belgium's epic 2018 quarterfinal with Brazil, tipping a curling shot over the bar, keeping them alive, and then Belgium finished third. So close, and then gone. Each heartbreak like that leaves a psychological residue. A quiet voice that starts to whisper, "We always fall short right here." And the insidious thing about that voice is that it becomes self-fulfilling. At the exact moment they needed to trust themselves most, the semifinals, the big knockout games, the memory of every past failure tightened its grip. The pattern repeated because the group had, without realizing it, learned to expect it. That's the feedback loop that haunts cursed teams. Failure teaching a group to expect failure until the expectation itself becomes the reason it keeps happening. If you're finding this kind of sports psychology breakdown interesting, there's a lot more of it on this channel. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment below. Do you think Belgium's golden generation was genuinely unlucky, or was the psychology always going to catch up with them? I'm genuinely curious what you think, and I read every comment. So here's where we land. De Bruyne, Lukaku, and Courtois are all still here for one final shot at the major prize that the most talented group in Belgian history never won. They're now unbeaten in 18 games and still have their eyes on football's greatest prize. And there is something genuinely different about this moment. When everyone has already written your ending, when this really is the last dance, the weight that broke you before can finally fall away because there's nothing left to lose. The label is gone. The expectation has been replaced by something quieter. And sometimes that's exactly the mental condition a team needs to finally play free. The teams that win trophies are almost never the most talented. They're the ones who win the battle inside their own heads first. Talent was never what let Belgium down. It was the mental architecture around the talent, the crushing expectation, the competing egos, the desperation of a closing window, and the scars of every near miss. And now on July 10th against Spain, they get one last chance to prove that the final lesson of this generation isn't how they fell short. It's what they did when there was nothing left to fear. If you want to go deeper on the psychology of pressure in football, the video right there is exactly where to go next.